Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Life is a journey full of paths we walk, doors we approach, and decisions we must make. Along this journey, it's easy to feel lost, uncertain, or even overwhelmed when faced with countless doors, each representing opportunities, relationships, or challenges. In those moments of uncertainty, it's natural to ask which door is the right one. Which path should I take? But tonight, I want to remind you of one simple truth: God will open the right door. Not just any door, but the one meant for you. The one aligned with your purpose, your calling, and His divine plan for your life. Sometimes when we stand before a closed door, our instinct is to knock harder, to force it open, believing that what's behind it is what we need. We wrestle with frustration, wondering why the opportunity didn't work out, why the relationship didn't last, or why our plans seemed to fall apart. But what if I told you that a closed door is not rejection, it's redirection? It's God's way of guiding you toward what's best, not just what's good. Let me share a story. There was once a man who had been seeking a new job. He applied to countless positions, attended interviews, and faced rejection after rejection. Each closed door left him more discouraged, questioning his worth and purpose. But one day, an opportunity appeared out of nowhere, better than anything he could have imagined. Looking back, he realized that every rejection had been God's way of steering him toward this moment. You see, we often forget that God's timing is perfect. When a door doesn't open immediately, it doesn't mean it never will. It means He's preparing you, shaping you, and ensuring that you're ready for what lies ahead. Sometimes the delay is for your growth, sometimes it's for your protection. Think about Joseph in the Bible. Sold into slavery by his brothers, falsely accused and imprisoned, Joseph could have easily given up, believing that God had forgotten him. But through it all, God was preparing Joseph for something greater. At the right time, God opened the door, elevating him to a position of power and influence that saved countless lives. When we trust that God will open the right door, we also learn to let go of the need to control everything. Trust is surrender. It's saying, God, I don't understand why this door is closed, but I believe you have something better for me. But let's be honest, trusting God isn't always easy. It takes faith to stand in the hallway of life, surrounded by closed doors, and believe that the right one will open in His time. It takes patience to wait when everything in you wants to move forward. And it takes courage to walk through the door when it finally opens, knowing that it may lead you into the unknown. I want you to remember this: the door God opens will never lead you where His grace cannot sustain you. When God opens the right door, you don't have to force it, manipulate it, or strive for it. It will happen naturally because it's His plan, not yours. So what do we do in the waiting? We prepare, we pray, we trust. And we remain faithful in the little things, knowing that God is working behind the scenes. Like a master artist, He's painting a masterpiece of your life, and every stroke, even the ones that seem random or chaotic, is part of the bigger picture. As you stand before the doors in your life, don't be discouraged by the ones that remain closed. Instead, see them as opportunities to grow closer to God. Use them as moments to deepen your faith, to refine your character, and to align your heart with His will. And when the right door opens, you'll realize that everything you went through, every closed door, every disappointment, was leading you to that moment. Ladies and gentlemen, life is full of uncertainties, but one thing remains constant: God is faithful. He sees what you cannot see. He knows what you do not know, and He loves you more than you can imagine. Trust Him to open the right door, and when He does, step through it with confidence, knowing that it leads to something greater than you ever dreamed. Life often presents us with doors that remain firmly shut, and our immediate reaction is to feel disappointed or even defeated. We interpret a closed door as a personal failure, a reflection of our inadequacies. But what if that closure is not rejection, but a divine redirection meant to guide us? A closed door is often God's way of saying, not here, not now. It's not a punishment, but a form of protection. God sees what lies ahead, things we cannot understand or foresee, and He gently redirects us towards something better. When a door closes, it can be painful, especially if it's something we deeply desired. But that pain often carries a lesson, shaping our character and deepening our trust in God's plan. It teaches us patience and resilience. Consider the moments when you prayed fervently for an opportunity that never materialized. In hindsight, how many of those closed doors saved you from unnecessary heartache or failure? God's rejections are often blessings in disguise. In the moment, it's hard to see the bigger picture. We feel stuck in the hallway of life, wondering why the path we wanted isn't available. But the hallway is where God works on us, refining us for the next chapter. A closed door can also be a chance to reevaluate our priorities. It forces us to pause, reflect, and ask ourselves if we are truly aligned with God's will, or if we are pursuing something purely for our own desires. God's redirection is always purposeful. He doesn't close a door without having a better one in store. Trusting that truth requires faith, even when the path forward isn't immediately clear. It's easy to feel like giving up when the doors keep shutting, but each closure is a step toward the door that's meant for you, the one that will open at the perfect time and for the right reasons. The key to embracing redirection is to shift our perspective. Instead of asking, "Why did this happen to me?" we should ask, "What is God trying to teach me through this?" This mindset changes everything. Redirection is not about loss, it's about gain. Each closed door removes distractions, making room for the opportunities and relationships that align with God's plan for your life. It's important to remember that not every opportunity is meant to be ours. Sometimes a door closes because it was never part of God's plan to begin with. He knows what's best for us far better than we do. We might feel we're missing out when a door shuts, but often we're being spared from something that wasn't meant to bring us peace, joy, or success. God's no is a form of divine protection. Think of a closed door as God's way of guarding your future. If He says no to one thing, it's because He has something greater waiting ahead. The challenge is trusting Him during the wait. Redirection builds character. It teaches us humility, perseverance, and the ability to trust even when we don't understand. These qualities are essential for stepping through the right door when it opens. We have to remember that our plans are limited by what we know, but God's plan is infinite. He sees the beginning, the end, and everything in between. His redirections are rooted in His eternal wisdom. Every time a door closes, it's an opportunity to grow spiritually. It's a reminder to seek God's guidance, to pray more earnestly, and to rely on Him instead of leaning on our own understanding. God's redirections are also opportunities to strengthen our faith. When we trust Him with the closed doors, we're demonstrating our belief that He is in control and that His ways are higher than ours. Sometimes a closed door redirects us toward our true purpose. What may feel like a setback is often a step forward in the grander scheme of God's plan for our lives. In moments of redirection, it's important to stay patient and hopeful. God's timing is perfect, and every delay serves a purpose. Trust that He's leading you to the right door at the right time. Ultimately, a closed door is not the end, it's a transition. It's God's way of saying, "I have something better for you, trust Him, for He knows exactly where you're meant to be." God's timing is a profound mystery, often challenging to understand in the moment. We live in a world that prizes immediacy, yet God operates outside of time, weaving events with precision. His timing is never rushed, but always perfect. When something doesn't happen as quickly as we'd like, it's tempting to assume God is silent or unresponsive. But delays are not denials, they're often divine pauses designed to prepare us for what lies ahead. Waiting has a purpose. God's timing teaches us patience, a virtue that strengthens our faith and character. It's in the waiting that we learn to lean on Him, trusting that He knows what's best, even when we cannot see the full picture. Imagine planting a seed. No matter how much you water it, the growth takes time. Similarly, God's timing allows the seeds of His plans to grow and flourish at the right moment, producing fruit we couldn't have imagined. We often think we're ready for a blessing, but God knows better. His timing ensures that we are fully equipped to handle what He has planned for us. A premature blessing could become a burden. Sometimes God's timing feels like a test. He uses waiting periods to strengthen our faith, to see if we'll remain steadfast and trust Him even when we don't have all the answers. Faith grows in the delay. It's during the waiting that God works behind the scenes, aligning circumstances and people in ways we cannot comprehend. He is orchestrating every detail, ensuring that everything falls into place perfectly. Waiting can be frustrating, but it's also refining. It's in those moments that God shapes our character, molding us into the people we need to become to fulfill His plans for our lives. God's timing is always tied to His purpose. When the right moment comes, His plans unfold effortlessly. What once seemed impossible suddenly becomes reality because it was His will all along. Consider the story of Abraham and Sarah. They waited decades for God to fulfill His promise of a child. Though the waiting was difficult, God's timing brought them Isaac, a child of destiny, at the perfect moment. In our impatience, we may try to force things to happen on our schedule, but rushing ahead of God's timing often leads to unnecessary stress, mistakes, and heartbreak. His way is always better. Trusting God's timing means surrendering our need for control. It's acknowledging that we don't have to understand the why or when because we trust the one who does. God's timing is not just about delays, it's about protection. Sometimes he withholds something because he knows it's not good for us yet or ever. His wait or no is often a shield. We see time as linear, but God sees the whole picture, past, present, and future. His timing is shaped by his eternal perspective, designed to lead us to the best possible outcome. When we trust in God's timing, we find peace even in uncertainty. We no longer feel the need to rush because we know he is in control and that his plans are worth the wait. God's timing often aligns with lessons we need to learn. In the waiting, we gain wisdom, resilience, and gratitude. These lessons prepare us for the blessings he has in store for us. Think about how nature operates on God's timing. The sun rises and sets, the seasons change, and everything happens in its due time. Just as creation follows his order, so does our journey. When the right time comes, God's plans unfold effortlessly. Doors open, opportunities align, and everything fits together in ways we could never orchestrate ourselves. It's a moment of divine clarity. God's timing is also an act of love. He knows when we're ready, when we're not, and when the world around us needs to be in the right place for his plan to unfold perfectly. Ultimately, trusting God's timing deepens our relationship with him. It teaches us to depend on him fully, knowing that his plans are always good and that his timing is always perfect. Trusting God requires letting go of the need to control every aspect of our lives. It means surrendering our plans, timelines, and expectations to him, knowing he has a better plan. Trust is the foundation of faith. Letting go doesn't mean giving up, it means giving in to God's sovereignty. It's acknowledging that his wisdom far exceeds ours and that his ways are higher than our understanding. Surrender brings peace. Control is an illusion we often cling to out of fear. When we try to force things to happen our way, we risk missing the beauty of God's perfect plan unfolding in his time. Trust liberates us. Trusting God is challenging because it requires faith in the unseen. We have to believe that, even when we can't see the outcome, God is working for our good and his glory. It's a step of faith. When we surrender to God, we release the burden of worry and anxiety. Trusting him means we no longer have to carry the weight of figuring everything out on our own. He shoulders the load for us. Letting go allows us to grow spiritually. It's in the surrender that we learn humility, patience, and the ability to rely fully on God instead of leaning on our own understanding. Growth comes in the release. God doesn't require us to have all the answers, he simply asks us to trust him. It's not about knowing every detail of the plan, but about trusting the planner himself. That's where true peace lies. Surrender doesn't mean passivity, it means active faith. It's continuing to pray, prepare, and persevere while leaving the outcome in God's hands. Trusting God is not idle, it's intentional. When we let go of control, we make room for God to move in miraculous ways. Often it's only when we step aside that we see his power and providence at work in our lives. Trusting God requires a daily decision to surrender. It's not a one-time act, but a constant choice to say, God, I trust you with this moment, this decision, in this situation. It's an ongoing process. Surrendering control also means releasing our fears. Fear often drives our need to control, but trusting God means believing that he will protect, provide, and guide us through every challenge. Letting go invites peace into our lives. When we stop striving to control outcomes, we find rest in the knowledge that God is in charge. His plans are for our good, and his timing is perfect. Trusting God doesn't mean we'll always understand his ways. Sometimes his plans will seem confusing or even painful. But true trust says, I believe you, even when I don't understand. Surrendering to God's will allows us to experience his grace. When we stop fighting against his plans, we open ourselves to receive the blessings he's prepared for us. Grace flows in surrender. Trusting God also means letting go of the past. We cannot move forward into his promises if we're holding on to old hurts, regrets, or failures. Surrender frees us to embrace his future. When we trust God, we align ourselves with his purpose. Surrender and control allows us to walk in step with his will, ensuring that we are on the path he has designed for us. Letting go requires us to let God take the lead. It's recognizing that he is the shepherd and we are the sheep, meant to follow his guidance rather than chart our own course. Trusting God is an act of worship. It's saying, God, I honor you by placing my life in your hands. I believe you are good, faithful, and able to guide me better than I can guide myself. When we surrender, we stop striving and start thriving. Trusting God allows us to live with freedom and joy, knowing that his plans are not just good, but exceedingly and abundantly beyond all we could imagine. Ultimately, surrender and control deepens our relationship with God. It draws us closer to him, teaching us to depend on him fully, and reminds us that he is our loving Father who wants the best for us. The waiting period is never wasted when you prepare and stay faithful. God often uses this time to refine our hearts, teach us valuable lessons, and equip us for the blessings ahead. Preparation aligns us with his purpose. Staying faithful in the waiting means continuing to trust God even when there's no visible progress. It's about holding on to his promises, knowing that his timing is always perfect and intentional. Faith is active in the pause. Preparation during waiting involves prayer, which deepens our connection with God. Prayer helps us focus on his will rather than our desires, ensuring we're spiritually ready for what he has planned. Prayer is the key to alignment. Faithfulness is shown through consistency. Even when life feels stagnant, remaining steadfast in our daily walk with God proves our trust in him. It's through consistency that our character is strengthened. While we wait, God is working behind the scenes, arranging circumstances in ways we cannot see. Our responsibility is to remain diligent and trust that his plans are unfolding perfectly. Faith bridges the unseen and the seen. Waiting also allows us to grow in patience, a virtue that strengthens our faith. Patience teaches us to rest in God's sovereignty and recognize that every delay has a purpose in his greater plan. Growth happens in patience. God often uses the waiting period to develop skills, knowledge, or qualities we'll need for the next season. Whether it's resilience, wisdom, or compassion, he's preparing us to thrive in the blessings to come. Staying faithful means continuing to serve God and others, even when we feel overlooked or forgotten. Serving with a humble heart during the waiting shows that we trust his timing over our own ambitions. Preparation requires self-reflection. In the waiting, we have an opportunity to examine our hearts, address weaknesses, and ensure our motives align with God's will. Reflection leads to transformation. Faithfulness is trusting that even when we feel stuck, God is still moving. Just as a tree grows roots before it sprouts upward, our faith deepens in unseen ways during the waiting. Growth starts underground. Being faithful also means focusing on the present. Instead of worrying about the future, we can choose to excel in the tasks and opportunities God has given us today. Faith thrives in the now. Preparation during waiting can involve practical steps such as improving skills or pursuing education. These steps show that we're actively preparing for the opportunities God will open in his time. Faith works alongside action. Staying faithful doesn't mean we won't have doubts or fears. It means bringing those doubts to God and allowing him to reassure us through his word and promises. Honesty strengthens our faith. The waiting period can be a season of healing. God may use this time to mend broken relationships, heal emotional wounds, or restore our confidence in his love and guidance. Healing prepares us for wholeness. Faithfulness requires gratitude, even in the waiting. By thanking God for what we already have, we demonstrate trust that he will provide what we need when the time is right. Gratitude fuels hope. Preparing while waiting means embracing the lessons God is teaching us. Every challenge, delay, or redirection is an opportunity to grow closer to him and gain the wisdom needed for the future. Lessons lead to purpose. Faithfulness means rejecting the temptation to compare our journey with others. God's plan for each of us is unique, and comparing only distracts us from what he's doing in our lives. Focus keeps us grounded. The waiting period is a test of faith. Staying faithful despite unanswered prayers shows God that we trust Him completely. It's in this trust that we grow stronger and closer to Him. Tests build trust. Preparation during waiting allows us to dream with God. We can use this time to seek His vision for our future and align our goals with His purpose, ensuring we're ready when the door opens. Dreams take shape and surrender. Ultimately, staying faithful in the waiting is about trusting God's process. Even when we can't see the full picture, we can rest in the assurance that He is working everything out for our good and His glory. Faith holds the promise. When God opens the right door, it aligns with your purpose in ways that are undeniable. Everything about it feels orchestrated, as if every past struggle was leading you to this moment. His plans are always intentional. The right door brings peace even when it's challenging. Unlike opportunities we force, God's open door comes with a sense of assurance that calms our fears and strengthens our faith. Peace is a hallmark of His will. God's open door will often exceed your expectations. It won't just meet your needs, but will reflect His abundant blessings and grace, showing His desire to give us more than we can imagine. His gifts overflow. Walking through the door God opens requires courage and faith. Even though it's the right door, it may lead to new challenges, stretching you in ways that help you grow into the person He's called you to be. The opportunities God provides will always align with His word. The right door won't lead you away from Him, but will draw you closer, reinforcing your relationship with Him and your reliance on His guidance. God's open door often comes with confirmation. It may be through scripture, advice from godly counsel, or circumstances that align perfectly. He reassures us that we're stepping into His plan. The right door doesn't come with confusion. While the path may require faith, God is not the author of chaos. His guidance is clear, and His direction removes doubt, replacing it with confidence. God's open door may not look like what we expected, but it will always serve His greater purpose. Sometimes it's not about the destination, but the transformation that happens along the way. The right door often requires preparation. God doesn't give us more than we can handle, and He ensures that when He opens the door, we're ready to walk through it with confidence and purpose. When God opens the door, it blesses not only you but also those around you. His plans are designed to have a ripple effect, impacting lives in ways that bring glory to His name. Walking through the door God opens requires humility. It's a recognition that this opportunity is not about our strength or merit, but about His grace and favor working in our lives. The right door is always marked by God's provision. Resources, connections, and opportunities seem to fall into place as He supplies everything needed to walk through it successfully. Sometimes God's open door will challenge you to let go of comfort or familiarity. Stepping into His plan may require leaving behind old habits, relationships, or mindsets that no longer serve His purpose. God's open door always carries a sense of timing. When it happens, you'll realize how perfectly everything has aligned, as if every delay, detour, and disappointment was necessary for this moment. The opportunities God gives are often tied to His glory. The door He opens isn't just for your benefit, but for you to reflect His goodness and bring others closer to Him through your journey. The right door will often test your faith. Even when you know it's from God, stepping through may require overcoming fear, doubt, or uncertainty, reminding you to rely fully on Him. God's open door brings fulfillment. It aligns your talents, passions, and desires with His plan, allowing you to live a life that feels meaningful and deeply connected to His purpose for you. Sometimes the right door opens after seasons of waiting or hardship. When it does, you'll see how every challenge prepared you to embrace this moment with gratitude and strength. God's open door may lead to unexpected blessings. As you step through, you'll discover opportunities, relationships, and growth that you didn't even know you needed. His plans always surprise us with their goodness. Ultimately, the right door from God reminds us of His faithfulness. It's a testament to His promises, His timing, and His deep love for us, showing that He always knows and provides what's best. God's plans for our lives are always good, even when we don't fully understand them. His timing, his ways, and his decisions are perfect, designed to bring us into his purpose. Trust in him is the foundation of our journey. The process of waiting, preparing, and trusting is as important as the destination. Each step shapes our character, builds our faith, and deepens our dependence on God. Every moment has meaning. When God opens the right door, it's not just about opportunity, it's about alignment. It's his way of leading us into a future that reflects his promises and his purpose for our lives. Alignment brings peace. We must trust that closed doors are as much a part of his plan as open ones. When a door doesn't open, it's because he's protecting us or preparing us for something greater. Closed doors are blessings in disguise. Patience and waiting teaches us to lean not on our own understanding, but on God's wisdom. It's in these moments that we grow spiritually and learn to walk by faith and not by sight. Faith is forged in waiting. Surrendering control is an act of faith that transforms our relationship with God. When we let go of our plans and trust his, we find a peace that surpasses all understanding. Letting go is liberating. Every delay and detour in our journey is intentional. God uses these moments to prepare us, refine us, and align us with his perfect plan. His timing is always purposeful and precise. Preparation during the waiting season is a sign of faith. It shows that we trust God to fulfill his promises and that we are ready to step into his plans when the time comes. Faith is active, not passive. Walking through the doors God opens requires courage. Even when the path ahead is uncertain, we can step forward with confidence, knowing he has already prepared the way. Courage is rooted in trust. The blessings that come from God's open doors are not just for us, they're meant to impact others. His plans always have a ripple effect, spreading his love and glory to those around us. Blessings are shared. God's faithfulness is evident in every step of our journey. From the waiting to the breakthrough, his hand is guiding us, shaping our story, and drawing us closer to him. His faithfulness never fails. When we trust God, we experience peace even in the midst of uncertainty. His plans are good, his timing is perfect, and his love for us is unwavering. Trusting him brings rest to our souls. The right door may challenge us, but it will always lead to growth. God uses these opportunities to stretch our faith, develop our character, and equip us for his purpose. Growth comes through challenges. God's open door is an invitation to step into his plan with boldness and humility. It's a chance to say yes to his calling and experience the abundant life he has prepared for us. His invitations are life-changing. As we journey through life, we must remember that every moment is part of God's divine plan. The highs and the lows, the open doors and the closed ones, all work together for our good. Trust the process. When we let go of our need for control, we make room for God to move powerfully in our lives. Surrendering to him allows us to experience his grace, provision, and peace in every season. Surrender invites blessings. The lessons we learn in waiting, trusting, and preparing stay with us forever. They shape our perspective, strengthen our faith, and remind us of God's goodness and faithfulness. Lessons become our foundation. God's open doors often come in unexpected ways, reminding us of his ability to do immeasurably more than we could ask or imagine. His plans exceed our greatest dreams and desires. Expect the unexpected. As we conclude, let's commit to trusting God wholeheartedly. Whether we're waiting, preparing, or walking through an open door, we can rest in the assurance that his plans for us are always good. Trust is our response. In the end, God's purpose for our lives is to draw us closer to him and to use us for his glory. Every step we take in faith is a testimony of his love, grace, and perfect plan for us. To him be the glory forever.